You finally make $100,000 a year. For years, that number sounded like the finish line. You imagined what it would feel like. More freedom. Less stress. Maybe a nicer home. More money left over every month. And then it happens. Your salary crosses 6 figures. But strangely, you don't feel rich. You still check your bank account before making a big purchase. You still think about the mortgage or rent. You still worry about an unexpected bill. And somehow, the life that once seemed expensive has quietly become your normal. So what happened? Did $100,000 stop being a lot of money? Or did something change inside the way you experience money? Because one of the strangest things about earning more is that your income can rise much faster than your feeling of financial security. And the reason has less to do with the number on your paycheck than you might think. Imagine someone earning $55,000. They get a promotion. Now they're making $75,000. A few years later, they reach $100,000. On paper, that sounds like an enormous transformation. But their life has changed too. The apartment became a better apartment. The old car became a newer car. Eating out became normal instead of occasional. The cheap flight became the convenient flight. Subscriptions multiplied. Maybe they started helping family more. Maybe they moved to a neighborhood where people earn more. None of these decisions necessarily look irresponsible. That's what makes this so difficult to notice. The problem isn't usually one extravagant purchase. It's the gradual expansion of what feels normal. And this is where income starts playing a psychological trick on us. We don't experience money in absolute terms. We experience it relative to the life surrounding us. If your income rises and your expectations rise alongside it, the emotional distance between "I have enough" and "I need more" can remain almost exactly the same. You earn more. But your definition of normal moves with you. Think about the first time you earned enough money to comfortably afford something that once felt expensive. Maybe it was a $20 meal. A $100 purchase. A nicer hotel. At first it feels like a luxury. Then you do it a few more times. Eventually, it doesn't feel luxurious anymore. It just feels normal. This is closely related to what psychologists call hedonic adaptation. Our emotional response to improvements tends to fade as those improvements become familiar. The new apartment feels exciting. For a while. The new car feels special. For a while. The higher paycheck feels liberating. For a while. Then your brain recalibrates, and the thing that once represented progress becomes the baseline from which you judge everything else. That's why a raise can solve yesterday's problems without solving tomorrow's anxiety, because the human brain is remarkably good at moving the goalpost. But there's another layer. Making $100,000 doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. A 6-figure salary in a low-cost area can create very different financial breathing room from a 6-figure salary in an expensive city. Taxes matter. Housing matters. Childcare matters. Debt matters. Childcare matters. Debt matters. Healthcare matters. Transportation matters. Family obligations matter. So when someone says, "You make 6 figures, you should feel rich," they're treating income as if it were the same thing as financial capacity. It isn't. Income is what comes in. What matters psychologically is how much room remains after your life takes its share. Call that margin. Because margin is what gives money its emotional power. If you earn $100,000 but almost every dollar is already committed, the number can feel surprisingly small. If you earn less but have low fixed expenses, substantial savings, and fewer financial obligations, the same paycheck can feel much more powerful. This is why financial security is often less about maximizing income and more about creating optionality. Imagine 2 people. Both earn $100,000. Person A has a large mortgage, expensive car payments, multiple subscriptions, high monthly spending, and very little savings. Person B has a smaller home, fewer fixed expenses, substantial emergency savings, and a lifestyle that hasn't expanded as quickly as their income. They earn the same amount. But they do not possess the same freedom. If person A hates their job, leaving could feel terrifying. If person B hates their job, they may have more room to pause, search, negotiate, or walk away. That difference doesn't always show up on a salary statement. It shows up in choices. And that's the part we often miss. The real purpose of money isn't simply to buy more things. It's to increase the number of choices available to you. Which creates a strange paradox. Sometimes earning more can make you feel less free. Not because earning more is bad, but because higher income can quietly come with higher commitments. The larger house requires the larger payment. The nicer car requires the higher insurance bill. The expensive neighborhood raises the cost of everything around it. The lifestyle that was supposed to reward your success becomes the lifestyle you now have to maintain. And suddenly, the raise isn't buying freedom. It's financing a new minimum. That's why some people reach $100,000 and immediately start thinking about $150,000. Then $200,000. Then some other number that is supposed to finally create peace. But if the psychological structure stays the same, the number may never be enough, because the problem was never only income. It was the relationship between income, expectations, commitments, and comparison. Comparison makes this even more powerful. You can feel wealthy in one room and poor in another, earn $100,000 and live around people earning $40,000, and you may feel extraordinarily successful. Earn the same $100,000 in an environment where everyone around you earns $200,000, and suddenly you're asking yourself what you're doing wrong. Your bank account hasn't changed, your reference group has. Social comparison can turn an objective improvement into a subjective disappointment. And this is where financial anxiety becomes especially confusing. You can be objectively doing well and still feel insecure. You can be earning more than you ever have and still feel behind. You can have enough to be comfortable and still be afraid that one mistake could destroy that comfort. That doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It means money isn't only mathematics. Money represents safety, control, status, independence. The ability to protect the people you love. So when your income rises, you don't necessarily stop worrying about money. Sometimes you simply start worrying about more expensive versions of the same uncertainty. At $50,000 you worried about paying the bills. At $100,000, you might be worried about buying a home, saving enough for retirement, supporting your family, or maintaining the lifestyle you've built. The numbers change. The underlying desire doesn't. You want to feel safe. And maybe that's the deeper mistake we make when we chase a specific income number. We assume a higher number will automatically produce a different emotional state. But money can create security. It cannot guarantee the feeling of security. That distinction matters. Because once you understand it, the question changes. Instead of asking, how much do I need to make before I feel rich? You can ask something much more useful. How much freedom does my money actually give me? Can you handle an unexpected expense? Can you survive a period without income? Can you say no to a job that is destroying your life? Can you make decisions without every choice being determined by your next paycheck? Can you spend money on things you genuinely value without constantly wondering whether you're falling behind? Those questions measure something a salary number cannot. Margin. And maybe that's what we were really looking for when we imagined making $100,000. Not luxury, not status, not a bigger number on a screen, room to breathe. The irony is that the path to feeling richer may not always involve making dramatically more money. Sometimes it involves allowing your income to create distance between what you earn and what you are required to spend. Keeping some raises instead of immediately converting them into higher expenses. Building savings before upgrading the lifestyle. Being honest about which purchases improve your life and which ones simply make your current identity more expensive. And deciding what enough actually means before the world decides it for you. Because if every increase in income simply increases your definition of normal, you can spend your entire life climbing without ever feeling like you've arrived. You could make $100,000, then $150,000, then $150,000, then $250,000, and still experience the strange feeling that you're one raise away from finally being okay. Maybe financial wealth isn't the moment when you can afford everything you want. Maybe it's the moment when your life no longer requires everything to go perfectly. When an unexpected bill is inconvenient instead of catastrophic. When losing a job is frightening but not immediately destructive. When a raise can become freedom instead of another obligation. And when you look at your income, you don't just see a number. You see choices. Because making $100,000 can change your life, but only if enough of that money remains yours to decide what happens next.